Look at a zebra for more than 5 seconds, and a strange question creeps in. Why stripes? Not spots. Not solid black. Not solid brown like every other grazing animal on the savanna. Stripes. Bold, high contrast, impossible to miss stripes. For over a century, scientists couldn't agree on why. And the real answer turns out to be one of the strangest stories in evolutionary biology. The obvious guess is camouflage. Hide in the grass. Become invisible to a hungry lion. It's a satisfying theory. It's also almost completely wrong. Charles Darwin himself was puzzled by zebra stripes. On the open savanna, stripes don't hide anything. A zebra standing in dry yellow grass stands out. You can spot one from hundreds of meters away. So if it's not camouflage, what is it for? For decades, the leading guess was a clever version of camouflage called motion dazzle. The idea was that in a moving herd, overlapping black and white lines might blur together, confusing a predator's ability to track one individual. It's a beautiful idea, but when researchers tested it, the dazzle effect mostly fell apart. Lions are excellent at picking out individual zebras, even in a moving herd. Their motion tracking is sharp enough that stripes don't meaningfully confuse them. So scientists went looking elsewhere. In 2014, a team led by biologist Tim Caro published a study that changed the conversation. Caro's team mapped a range of different zebra populations against environmental conditions, looking for whatever correlated most closely with stripe intensity. The answer surprised almost everyone. It wasn't predators. It was flies. Specifically, biting flies, tsetse flies, and horseflies, the kind that spread deadly diseases like trypanosomiasis. Caro's team found that zebra populations living in regions with the highest densities of these flies had the boldest, most extensive stripes. The correlation was stronger than any link to predators, temperature, or vegetation. This led to a wave of experiments testing exactly how stripes might repel flies. Researchers built physical models, horse-shaped targets painted with stripes, solid black, solid white, and gray, placed them in fields with high fly populations, and counted how many flies landed on each one. The results were striking. Striped surfaces attracted dramatically fewer fly landings than solid-colored ones. Black surfaces attracted the most flies. White surfaces attracted somewhat fewer. But striped patterns, especially narrow, high-contrast stripes, attracted the fewest landings of all, sometimes less than half of a solid surface. So what's actually happening? As a biting fly approaches a surface, it uses visual cues to judge speed, distance, and where to land. Researchers using high-speed cameras found that flies approaching striped surfaces failed to slow down properly. They misjudge their approach speed, fly in too fast, and either bounce off or fail to land cleanly. This is sometimes linked to the barber pole illusion, where stripes create motion signals that confuse an insect perception of how fast the surface beneath it is moving. The fly's brain gets bad data, and bad data makes for a bad landing. But why would flies matter enough to shape an entire evolutionary trait? Because in much of zebra habitat, biting flies aren't just an annoyance, they're a serious threat. Tsetse flies transmit trypanosomiasis, a disease that can be lethal to large mammals. Zebras also have notably thin fur compared to many other African grazers, which may make them more vulnerable to bites and the diseases that come with them. Combined with a habitat full of disease-carrying flies, and a trait that cuts fly landings in half becomes a serious survival advantage. Not a one-time benefit, but a compounding edge across thousands of generations. This doesn't mean predator-based theories were entirely worthless. Some researchers still argue stripes offer modest benefits during high-speed group movement, making it slightly harder for predators to lock onto one individual in a chaotic herd. Heat regulation theories have also been tested. The idea that stripes create tiny convection currents that help cool a zebra in extreme heat, though that evidence remains mixed. The current scientific consensus, supported by the strongest and most consistently replicated evidence, points to flies as the primary evolutionary driver. It's not the dramatic predator versus prey story most people expect. It's a quieter, stranger one, a multi-million-year arms race between zebras and biting insects, fought entirely through contrast and pattern. There's something genuinely humbling about that. One of nature's most visually striking patterns, the kind that ends up on flags, fashion, and album covers, likely exists not because of some grand battle with lions, but because of a tiny, persistent, blood-hungry fly. Evolution doesn't care about drama. It cares about what works. And in this case, what works is something as simple and as strange as a pattern an insect's brain can't parse fast enough to land on. So the next time you see a zebra, you're not looking at a failed camouflage experiment. You're looking at one of evolution's most elegant pest control systems, written in black and white for an audience of flies.